Alright, I am going to be reading Little Comic Shop of Horrors, which the cover is gold holographic with some sort of lizard superhero ripping up comic book pages.
Maybe
a super lizard on his face. Yeah, he doesn't look like a good guy. But it's pretty cool.
To every cop. They do not look like good guys.
All right, laugh at your own risk. You're walking through a creepy part of town when you find a new comic shop, Milo's Comics Dungeon. Dungeon is right. The place is dusty, dingy, and really dark. You can see the comics are awesome, but there's something you can't see. Trouble. It's waiting for you. If you choose to go downstairs, watch out for Milo the Mutant. He's got big, bad plans for you. What? You say you'd rather stay upstairs? Not such a great idea. Unless you want to battle the worst villains in the history of comics. Do you have what it takes to be a superhero? The choice is yours in this scary Goosebumps adventure that's packed with over 20 super spooky endings. All right. I thought after-school clubs were supposed to be fun, you grumble. You love comic books. And a comic book club sounded cool. But it's run by Horace Grumbatcher, the dullest kid in school. R.L. Stine does have a way with names.
Horace Grumbatcher?
Horace, or it might be Grumbacher. Horace
doesn't make it better.
Hey, you're the host of the Fake Ritual podcast.
Grumbatcher. Grumbatcher. The Yinzer in me says it's Grumbatcher. How could someone make a subject like comics boring? Horace manages. He clicks his slide projector to a picture of a comic book cover. Here's the first issue starring Super Doer, he drones. Today it's worth nearly $200,000. Click. And here's the first appearance of Ballistic Bug. This comic goes for nearly $20,000. I'm slowly working out my Horace voice.
Yeah, you got
He doesn't breathe through his nose.
Okay.
As if any kid in this club can afford that, you think. The projector clicks again, and a horror comic appears on the screen. Excellent. You love horror. I can relate to that.
Let's go.
You love horror.
But Horace can even make horror doll. This issue of the Cellar of Scary Stories went for $1,600. He lectures. An ugly face sneers at you from the comic cover. Yuck! It looks like a rotten pumpkin with warts. You turn away and notice the classroom clock. How did it get so late? You run outside in time to see a horrible sight. Oh no, you groan. What's wrong? Find out on page 2.
Uh-oh.
The next page.
Whoa.
Big reveal.
Big turn.
The school bus is already a block away. It left without you. Thanks a lot, Horace, you growl. Because of his boring lecture, now you have to walk home. If you follow the same route as the bus, you won't get home for hours. You decide you'd better try a shortcut, even though it means going through a part of town you've never seen before. Terrible idea.
Terrible idea.
Terrible idea. You walk and walk along your shortcut. With every step you take, your book bag gets heavier. The area you're cutting through looks a little weird. The buildings are old and dingy. The stores huddle together as if they're holding each other up. And the stuff in the windows is very weird. You pass a clothing store that seems to be selling Halloween costumes, even though Halloween is months away. And those dolls in that toy shop window, they look like vampires. You're relieved when you spot a store for vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
For vacuum cleaners. That's normal, you think. And next to it, hey, a comic shop. You step inside. The comic shop is dimly lit. Not a good idea.
Nope.
For a place filled with books. You can barely make out the comics on spinning racks. Beyond, in deeper shadows, are tables with row after row of boxes. These are the back issues, where collectors look for treasures. The owner stands behind a cash register. He looks familiar with his round face and warts, but you can't place him. He grunts when he sees you. Humph. Kids. Well, who does he expect to come in and buy comics? As you walk past him, the store owner calls out, "Leave your bag up here." You scowl. Why is he treating you like a thief? You think about leaving, but you'd like a rest from walking. And besides, you really want to check out the comics. Strolling around the racks, you notice the latest issue of Major Disaster. You bought it just a week ago. This guy has a sticker on it. for half price. Walking a little faster, you start picking up comic books. Doesn't the owner know what these things are worth? The deeper into the store you go, the darker it gets. A pair of bookcases block your way, but there's a little space between them. You see light coming through the crack. You squeeze between the bookcases into an open area. A dusty light bulb dangles from the ceiling. In its dim glow, you make out another spinning rack full of comics. A sign taped to the top of the rack says, "You think this is the library? Look, but don't touch, or you'll be sorry." I have been in a comic book, and I never got accused of using it as a library, but a friend I brought once did. And
That's
it was
a real
traumatic
thing.
for him.
It's
He
a
was
real
like,
thing.
They yelled at me. I was like, don't
Yeah.
read the you can't just stand there and
That's
read the
why they
comics. You
blind,
can't.
like they blind board them sometimes because they're just like, come on.
Because you can read a comic in
There was like,
in like
yeah,
10 minutes.
There was like one comic shop in my hometown. So they were like, look, there's a high school literally down the street that has open campus. We can't stop the kids from reading the books. So at that point, they were just like, if it's a long one, we're gonna get you.
Yeah,
but if
yeah.
you read if you skim through an Iron Man, they're not gonna
Don't
yell,
loiter.
you know?
Kinda.
Yeah.
Just don't loiter.
Yeah, don't pick up a complete collection, but
You peer at the comics on the rack. Whoa, that's the issue of Ballistic Bug from Horace's slideshow. The comic is marked for $2, and up there on the top rack, is that the incredibly expensive copy of Super Doer? Great take on Superman. Super Doer.
super duper.
Then you notice something else, a doorway. Beyond the rack, metal stairs lead downward to the basement, you guess. An arrow-shaped sign points down the stairway. It reads, horror. There's also a tattered sign on the open door. You try to make out the faded letters. It seems to say, no admittance. Trespassers will be GLOMPFed. GLOMPFed? What's that?
I'm not trying to be glomped.
You don't really care. All you care about is making a tough decision. Should you take a closer look at the rack, or should you go down to the horror section? If you check out the rack, turn to page 12. If you go downstairs, turn to page 51.
Decision time print. What are we going to do?
I want to go to the horror section.
I kind of want to go to the horror section too.
Right, we're all like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta see.
I say we go to the horror
Glomp
section.
me.
Yeah. Let's get glomped here. So that's our pick.
You head down the stairs, but after your first step, the whole stairway begins to shake. It's as if heavy machinery is working underneath. The stair treads under your feet suddenly tilt. They crash down with an echoing mechanical sound. Glompf! Now you know.
Uh-oh.
The stairway has turned itself into a slide. Your feet skid out from under you, and you bang your elbow. You're going faster, and you can't stop. You claw frantically at the slide, but you can't get a grip on the smooth metal. You don't even slow down. You just make a noise like nails on a blackboard. It makes a good blend with your screams as it zooms faster and faster, deeper into the dark.
I thought we were about to die
Wow.
So
early.
did I.
I was
did
like,
I.
holy shit. Opposite of dying slow.
Or your first choice gets you murdered.
Yeah.
You roll, bounce, even tumble in a somersault. Then there's nothing underneath you. You shoot past the end of the metal slide and slam into a plywood wall. Then you thud down onto a concrete floor. Oof, you groan. That hurt. On your hands and knees, you try to climb back up the slide that used to be a stairway, but it's too steep and slippery. You just slither to the... Well, that's a hard one to say. You just slither to the bottom again. Trying to stay calm, you gaze around. You're in a small, shadowy room. Its walls are made of plywood. An opening leads to a plywood hallway, lit by a single bulb. You walk down the hall. After a few yards, it turns. You find yourself in another little room. This one has 3 doorways. You choose the right-hand one to find yet another hall. That one zigzags to 2 more rooms, then a 4-way, intersection of corridors. What's going on, you mutter? I feel like a rat in a maze. Despite all my rain,
I'm just a rat in a maze.
That song probably had just come out. R.L. Stine, Crank, and Smashing Pumpkins.
Missionary sex and smashing pumpkins. The R.L. Stine.
No problem, you tell yourself. I'll memorize my route. Man, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah,
Taking
right?
a shortcut through a part of town you don't know,
Yeah.
and I'll memorize it.
The stairs turned into a slide, but I can find my way back
Yeah.
up. Like,
It'd be
what?
totally cool.
How are you even getting up there
By my
again?
single light bulb.
Yes.
To make it easier, you decide to make only right turns. That works for the first 4 choices you face. Then you find yourself in a room with only 1 doorway, on the left. By the 10th choice, you're mumbling to yourself, trying to remember which way you went. This place is definitely a maze, and it's bigger than the basement of the small comic shop. You feel as if you've been walking for miles. How can that be? The next room you find is stacked high with old copies of The Cellar of Scary Stories. They're all the same issue that Horace showed you a slide of. The guy with the face like a warty pumpkin is the series host. His name is Milo the Mutant.
We know him. We know him. We've met him.
Yes.
Yeah.
He must. It's kind of like the Crypt Keeper from
Yes.
the old EC comics, like Tales from the Crypt. Hey, now you realize why the comic shop owner seemed familiar. He looks just like Milo the Mutant. This is starting to get creepy. Then you hear a noise echoing through the maze, a slow, scraping sound, like a foot dragging on concrete. Someone or something is following you. What should you do? If you go back and see who's following you, turn to page 89. If you'd rather get out of there fast, turn to page 50. So, do you see who's following you, or do you hoof it?
Here's my thought, Prin, I want to see who's doing it. I want to see who's following me. I don't. MDK all fucking day. Murder, death, kill gang. We gotta see who's following you. Somebody's about to carve you up.
Hear me out. With the pizza cutter. Hear me out. Going back's not really an option.
Okay.
Is it? Like, what do you mean go back? You're not going to remember all the things you did. You kind of have one choice. So we have to. We gotta see who it is.
Yeah. We gotta see who it is. We want to see who it is.
Okay, you tell yourself, so I'm being followed through a dark maze. I should look on the bright side. Maybe whoever it is can show me the way out of here.
I wouldn't look that positively.
No, I would, find a weapon.
Yeah.
You turn your back on your trail. As you do, you notice a nasty smell in the air. It reminds you of the time your Uncle Mel left the bag of garbage in the kitchen when the family went on a 2-week vacation, and it seems to be getting stronger. Uh-oh. You pop around a corner and into a room. Light pours through a second doorway. It throws a moving shadow on the wall. Maybe it's Milo, or whatever the owner's real name is. Then the figure arrives in the doorway. It's not Milo. This guy is tall, and he doesn't have a face like a rotten pumpkin. His skin is greenish-gray, like moldy cheese. Puckered scars run up his cheeks. A pair of big metal bolts stick out of his neck. It's impossible, but he looks like Frankenstein.
Nothing should be puckered, in my opinion.
I will just be... I have to be that guy. I have to be that guy and point out that he looks like Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah, Frankenstein. No. But the word puckered should never be used.
That's nasty.
Fuck that.
Puckered scars.
Get out of here with that.
I remember Boris Karloff being much more handsome than that.
I've never heard pucker and was like...
When he sees you, he snarls. Yarg!
That's puckered, all right.
Turn to page 115.
Puckered, all right.
Yeah.
If I know anything about puckered.
Lucas, do you remember candy spray that was called Pucker?
Yes.
It was like green apple candy spray.
My mom would never buy it for me because she just looking at it was like, this is not good for you.
I'll tell you what.
You're gonna get GERD. Like.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Hot girls always had it in their purse though. That's on the boys.
Yeah. If I had only been a hot girl.
Yeah.
Despite my best efforts.
Yeah.
Okay. For a moment, you can't tear your eyes away from Frank. Let's correct R.L. Stine here. This guy's a horror writer and he can't even get Frankenstein right. For a moment, you can't tear your eyes away from Frankenstein's monster. But when he lurches towards you, you leap away. You dash down the hallway. The creature's snarling cry echoes behind you. As you race through the next doorway, you scrape against the rough plywood. Your jacket tugs you back when you take the next step. It's caught on a bunch of splinters. You try to pull loose, but you can't get free. And here comes the monster's scraping footsteps. Desperately, you wrestle out of the coat and keep running. You turn left, then right again. After a few moments, the creature's snarls become fainter. It sounds as if you're losing him. Should you keep running? Or now that he can't see you, should you try sneaking away from the creature? One thing's for sure, you've got to find the way out of this maze, fast. If you run, turn to page 86. If you sneak away, turn to page 65.
So either way, we got to get away. Sneak, run. I am okay with either because I'm a coward, so I'm fine with either. But
Well, I think if we're taking the last few choices pretty brash and bold,
yeah,
maybe we should sneak. Maybe we should try to just
sneak.
tone it down for a
Tone it
second.
down? Okay,
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. Let's tone it down.
You can't go all like.
I was
can't
all
put
about
the pedal
who's-
to the metal the full way.
I was all about to see who's following us for sure because
Yeah.
we're gonna find out no matter what. So you might as well say to my
Well,
face.
you would hope so.
Yeah. Well.
All right, let's sneak away. Your heart is pounding so hard you can barely hear anything. That's not how that works. But you strain your ears as you tiptoe down the shadowy corridors. You peek carefully around every corner. You can't hear Frankenstein's monsters shuffling footsteps anymore. Even his roar of "Nyarg" have faded away. You've lost him. With a sigh of relief, you lean against a plywood wall. A moth flutters past you and a hand grabs it in midair. Hey, that's not your hand. Like you need to have a moment where you're like,
Whoa. Hey, that's my
Look
hand.
at
Hold on. I have two and one is unaccounted for.
You spin around to face two kids about your own age, a red-haired girl and a boy with shaggy dark hair. He's chewing on something. Both give you odd, closed-mouthed smiles. I'm Cammy, and this is Jack. The girl tells you, I guess you got GLOMPFed, just like we did. How long have you guys been here, you ask? We're not sure, Jack swallows noisily, but I know I had short hair when I got here. You look at Jack's wild mane. This is bad news. I'm gonna become a hippie.
Long hair. I gotta go to church on Sunday.
See, it's hard to guess time. We can't tell whether it's day or night in Milo's maze, Cammy explains. Milo's maze, you repeat. So the guy in the comic shop is called Milo? Like the guy from the Cellar of Scary Stories? He is the guy from the Cellar of Scary Stories, Cammy replies. Or he was. The comic was canceled years ago. But if there's no more comic, how could... Wait a minute, you yell. Comic characters aren't real. This is impossible. Jack just shivers. With Milo, anything is possible. He blames kids for not buying enough of his comic books. Is that why he trapped us down here, you ask? Jack shakes his shaggy head. We aren't sure. Sometimes we catch him spying on us. We think maybe he's trying to scare us. Trying, you sputter. I'm scared to death. Shudder along to page 107.
So we kind of figured out why his career didn't work. Because he keeps trapping kids in the basement.
There's no way to... Yeah.
And then just peering in on them eventually.
Now they'll buy my comics. It's like they can't. They literally can't.
As a kid, seeing kids be like the center of stories, it was like, oh my god, yeah, that could happen to me.
Yeah.
And then as an adult, you're like, why would I create a maze for children in my basement?
Yeah.
Why, like, these...
It's just
there's some, like,
the
weird...
villains become even more villainous because you're kind of like...
Not that they're touching the kids, but there's, like, pedophilic undertones and trapping children in the basement.
Either way, like, you're
Good.
violating... Yeah,
Definitely bad.
you're destroying the lives of children.
Yeah.
It should be punished.
Like, go to Comic-Con. Like, the back issues
Has
still
an adult
come out.
never been in, as no adult ever walked in and said, Junji Ito in the basement, and he's like, yeah, get that. They're not gonna find, like, Marty or some shit? Like, please.
We saw Milo last week, Cammy remarks. The werewolf was chasing us. Milo popped around the corner and stared at us. Then he shook his head like he was annoyed. I'll never make my comeback this way, he said. Remember Jack? Jack doesn't reply. He's staring over your shoulder. You turn to see a bug crawling up the plywood wall. A big bug. Jack grabs for it, and Cammy snarls at him. It's a sound you'd expect from a wild dog, not from a kid. Jack and Cammy seem ready to fight. You notice how skinny they are, and dirty, and how long their fingernails have grown. Suddenly, Cammy seems to remember you're there. Look, you need help, she tells you. Why not come with us? Yeah, you can meet the other kids, Jack adds. Your eyes widen. You mean there are more of us down here? Jack nods. We help each other. Getting help, even from strangers, sounds good to you. But then again, you're not too far from that trick stairway. You might be able to find a way out on your own. If you go with Jack and Cammy, move on to page 124. If you turn them down and go on alone, go to page 112.
So they're, like, definitely werewolves.
Yeah. This sounds like a Netflix documentary. Like, in 3 years, like, so this guy stole a bunch of comics. Kind of sucked at comics, though. So he started entrapping kids in a maze in the basement.
Well, stop it, okay? You know what?
It's called Hans Fritz.
The new Saw movie just came out. You don't have to reveal the next one yet.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So what are we gonna do here?
If we go with them, we will probably get attacked by werewolves and not meet the other kids. And if we don't go with them, we will probably run into a different monster. So I guess it's just what monster you want to run into.
If we go with them, I think we're gonna see things that we're not ready to see. I think we're gonna be introduced into another world where it is just so far from what we hoped it to be.
Yeah.
That it'd be better lying to ourselves. So I think if we go, I'm a big fan of lying to myself. I think we should try to figure out what this other thing is, because we know if we go with them, what their situation is about. I think if we let them go about their business, we will then now come across another monster, but then they might come back and save us or some shit like that too.
Yeah.
So I want to see what else is up. We know what the kids are. We know what their story is. Let's see what this other stuff is.
Go alone.
Go on alone.
Yeah.
You want to get out of this maze now. Besides, Cammy and Jack are too weird for you. Thanks, but I'd like to see how I get along on my own, you tell them. You fake a smile. Maybe I'll see you later. You hurry out of the room. Behind you, they start snarling at each other again. You let that kid get away, Jack's voice echoes through the maze. Oh, right, Cammy answers. It was you and your bug eating. You should never do that in front of newcomers. Speaking of bugs, Jack's voice stops. Then you hear a loud crunch, as if he's biting into something. Something with a hard shell. Come on, Cammy orders. Then you hear their footsteps. Coming your way.
Oh, see? Here
Do
we go.
you run? Or should you try to hide?
I kind of made the last one, so I'll kind of let you carry the weight of this decision.
I want to hide.
Hide.
Prince hiding, I'm hiding too. We're both gonna hide here.
I'm ahead of them, you think, and I'm good at hide and seek. On tiptoe, you sneak through the maze. At last, you find a little room with only one doorway. It's hidden behind some old sheets of plywood. They'll never find you here. But in just a few minutes, you hear an odd noise. It sounds like someone's sniffing, trying not to cry.
Uh-oh.
As the sound gets louder, you realize it's not someone sniffling, but someone sniffing. Oh, I mispronounced it. A weird, humped shadow appears in the doorway. It looks like a dog sniffing out a trail. No, it's a shaggy-headed boy crawling along with his nose on the floor. Jack!
See, we met him anyway.
A chill trickles down your spine. A second later, Jack and Cammy block the door. Oh.
See, they were gonna do this anyway.
We should have ran, though.
Yeah, oh, yeah, I guess we should have ran. But I'm just saying, originally, this was what our fate was.
Yeah.
So we got out of it once.
You gulp, but their faces seem friendly. Why don't you come with us, Cammy suggests, stepping up to you. You'll be just in time for dinner. That's right, Jack chimes in, taking your arm in a firm grip. You try to shake off his hand. You can't get free. What is there to eat down here, you ask? Oh, we just take whatever falls our way, Cammy grins at you. You suddenly notice how big her teeth are, how pointed. Jack's smile reveals the same big, sharp fangs. Hope you don't have a sweet tooth.
I knew not to
because
trust
it
those
doesn't
fuckers.
look as if you'll be around for dessert. The end.
I knew those motherfuckers were trouble.
Yeah.
So we got eaten.
I like that though, because
At least we're dead.
yes,
At least we're dead.
We're not trapped in a horrible limbo, yeah.
and I always say like,
I'd like to die if
there is an afterlife, this is a sick thing to share with like all the other dead
Oh my
folks.
God.
How'd you die? Like
Actually,
cancer.
I was trapped in a child maze with werewolves.
What? Cue that the meme
And
of SpongeBob eating the
Frankenstein's
popcorn.
monster, like, for
Yeah.
some reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say I'm kind of sad that this
We
held
died.
a lot of
Yeah, we
Yeah.
died.
some even weirder stuff could definitely happen. So we'll probably
Definitely.
have to revisit this at some point. but-
Yeah, that was a cool one though, because at least it gave us it feels final. You watch
Yeah.
all those like weird documentaries when people say like, I've had relatives that have died or disappeared, and you always feel a sense of calm when they're just like, no, they for sure died. Like, we found them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
They're
why.
dead.
It's,
Yeah.
Even if someone goes missing, it is a relief to
Like,
have the body found.
It's
and
an
not
honest
just-
relief after like 6 years. To
Although
be like,
this
cool.
kid's parents are going to be
They're gonna
fucking beside themselves.
Yeah.
And then when you find out that he was eaten by werewolves, double.
Yeah.
Oh, but what was
Milo.
his name? Hubert at the beginning?
Horace.
Horace.
Batcher.
Horace is going to be arrested because the last person to see you was him.
That could be, yeah.
I mean, there's a bunch of kids down there already. It doesn't seem
Kids,
Are
quote unquote.
they
They might be from
I think they're peppered in for the kids.
they might be from the
not
comics the
kids.
same way Milo is from the comics.
Yeah.
But I do think if we had taken different paths, we probably would have met Horace. I guarantee.
Yeah.
Or else
he
Stine doesn't
probably
just
would've come
introduce
back.
characters with funny names.
That's something my old therapist would say. Well, if we'd taken different paths, we would have met the same Horace.